MILS is a modular integrated landscaping standard. So basically all it is it allows you to connect to anybody that used the same standard and make it look kind of seamless. It's normally done on a 32 by 32 base plate. Actually quite easy to get together. You can pretty much use any colors for the bricks that you build it with, but generally we use dark bluish gray because that it's uniform, and we try and make the front of the build look all the same. So dark bluish gray is kind of the standard there. So I tend to use that most of the time. The basic format is starting with those. So one of those generally would be your signature brick. Your signature brick helps you identify your build from someone else's. So why have a signature brick? It will prevent a bit of fighting and arguments after a display when you're busy taking things down. So you can basically decide what your signature brick will be. It could be pretty much anything that fills the space of a 2x2. You would normally place it somewhere on the back of the build so that it's not seen when you put your builds together. So once you've done, any questions on that, by the way? No, or we're waiting for questions at the end?
No, I'm sure everybody can shout when you ask.
Okay, just as an idea, I'll just quickly show you my signature brick. That didn't work. So basically, that's my signature brick. So that's what I'll have on my builds to differentiate me from everybody else. Okay, so back to the actual building of the MILS.
You've got a question from France. Is there a register yet for the signature bricks?
Not that I know of. We can maybe build one.
Okay, note made.
Okay, so the Technic bricks generally just allow you to connect to your neighbor. It helps to align your builds so that they look neat. We did used to use normal pins, but we decided to use the pin with the axle just because it slides in so much easier. It makes it a lot easier to put together when you're not trying to force pins to click in. So basically your pins just go in one hole on a side. This is all basically logical, but does help to explain it sometimes. So your pins go in, and then basically you can just build up your sides. I do like to put a bit of an offset in my bricks so that it makes it a little bit stronger. As you can see, that they're fairly easy to put together. There's nothing too fancy about it. So this layer is where we differ from the international MILS standard. They only have one layer of brick, but it does lend that ability to put some depth in your build. And I find that very useful at times. So we, as our standard, have gone with 2 bricks high. It is a little bit more brick intensive, but it does give you that versatility. And basically on top of those 2 layers of bricks go your plates, your green plate. You do need to put in support. The support you put in will depend on what you're building on top. Obviously, you're not going to just use 16 by 16s. So you'll have to decide where your support goes. Obviously, your support doesn't have to be dark bluish gray. Nobody's going to see it, so you can use whatever you have available.
All your pink bricks.
All your pink and purple and the likes. And that is your basic MILS. So you can see if you build a couple of them, they can actually go together. There's straight lines. They go together quite nicely. And now generally, as I said, we try to keep the front of our builds a nice dark bluish gray. And we generally don't like the holes, so we would just replace the Technique bricks with normal bricks. I tend to do it this way because it's nice if, when you're doing a versatile build, in other words, you don't always know what your layout will be or which ones will be in front. It's actually quite easy just to bend the base plate down, pop out the Technique brick. Oops, what did I do? Stopped sharing. All right, can you see me again?
Yep.
Good. So you can pop out the Technique brick and just put in a nice 1x2, which makes it a nice uniform front. Okay, so when building on a MILS, you don't have to keep the whole MILS to the standard. Obviously, only the sides where you're going to touch someone else's MILS has to kind of be conformed to the standard. What's inside here, you can build whatever you want. So if you're building a bigger size, so this is 4 32 by 32s, you can keep to just that edge has to match so that you keep that nice look of continuity. Now, when we display, we generally use standard tables, and they kind of cater for 3 base plates together. So if you're going to do a build that way, only your edges, once again, have to conform to standard. And then we have for now, only for now, for the first display, we've decided on this layout for the general builds. It's just until everybody gets used to MILS, and we can then start varying it up. So this was initially just for the first display, which unfortunately, due to COVID, hasn't happened yet. But basically, it's normal MILS, and then it's a road MILS, but the road is moved closer to the front. So you've got basically 4 studs, a sunken road level, and then it carries on with normal MILS. Also for now, just if you are going to be displaying with us, rivers run front to back. So we don't have to worry about where rivers cross onto our neighbors and so forth. So that's just the basics we're going to use for now in displaying wise. Obviously, when building on MILS, you don't have to keep this edge just like it is. You can build up and change things. You can put things right on that edge. You just have to make sure it's going to look good when you put it together with another MILS. That's the basic MILS plate. So we do have a few others, which we generally don't use too much. You saw the river one. So if you were having a river that goes over to your neighbor, that's basically the profile you would have to keep. Once again, only this one stud line on the edge of your build would have to keep this profile. What you do in the center of your MILS doesn't really matter. There is a coastline profile standard, a path standard, and a road standard. Like I said, for the current build, we've just moved this road towards the edge, basically put these 8 studs on the other side of the road, just to keep it a standard. Our roads generally are lower down, but I suppose I'll cover that just now. So that is basically the MILS standard.